gone from Thanet. So a petition to sign to save the toilets on the Margate seafront has come onto my Facebook page.
Yeah.
If somebody could create something, I'm also on Broadstairs Unplugged or whatever it is, I think we need to start putting the fact that that money is being lost from Thanet, it's being lost from all the towns and all the villages, and maybe we can have a groundswell of people joining us in this battle, because it's not just
and I sincerely hope, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I sincerely hope we would get 20,000, we would get 40,000, we would get 100,000 petitions. But if Bob Bayford and TDC Open Management Team is as contentious of our opinion as we think they are, we'd be pissing in the wind. I would like to see something like an Extinction Rebellion protest. 200 people turning up and blowing up the centre of Margate is going to get their attention. If we do that day, after 5 days, I'm telling you, we'd be all over the news in the UK.
I couldn't possibly comment on the committee, but as chair, I like the sound of that. Inika, would you organise it?
I'll be quite happy to organise it, but unfortunately I will be away for the next couple of weeks. But if you contact me, I'll do it.
We'll do the picnic on the port first, and then we'll go next there.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say ABBA. ABBA, Waterloo Bridge. We've got a huge kinetic energy sitting on Waterloo Bridge. They finish tomorrow. And I'm a journalist. I know what gets in the press. We can have a march from Waterloo Bridge down to the port. It worked for Farage. Yes, absolutely. So you
see our membership?
No, I'm talking about exit. You've got all that kinetic energy of those young people. They are the people. They can make a big difference. I'm 100% with you.
I'm glad to hear that, but I think that would be presuming too much from people's time. We cannot ask people if it's necessary. 2 weeks marching time.
Can't hear it.
Is it on? Yeah, hello, I'm Peter Campbell. I've been a councillor for 12 years. Believe me, in the last 4 years in this administration, 2/3 of the councillors you elected actually did nothing. Most of them never read the agenda, they turned up and did absolutely nothing. So all those members here who hope to get elected, when you get elected, that's only the start of it. We expect you to turn up, to read your agenda, to make your views known. Don't just sit there, don't just follow your... Look, there's a number of councillors here who represent parties that have actually implemented these policies. That's the reality. The reality is that the current administration has changed the designation of the local plan from commercial for the port to industrial. That's why they're getting away with it. We need to turn the designation back from industrial to commercial, leisure, facilities. Then you start. That gives them the legal basis to do what they're doing. That's what we need to do. Action, because the members should create the policy. And if the members will work together for the benefit of Ramsgate, then we'll actually get something done.
Just before we go on to the next speaker, as a small supplement to that, I would hope that if we section up self-organised research groups on various subjects like environment, like business plans, like engineering, etc., hopefully they can become a resource to the new councillors. Because one of the problems of being a councillor is you are part-time, right? And if the public servants aren't acting like public servants and giving you clear, transparent information with cost-benefited options that you then decide upon, then essentially you are flying blind. It takes it's impossible to get on top of a 92-page budget report if you're given a week to look at it. So hopefully, that if we can set up some subgroups of RAG self-organised, doing the work, doing the research. This could be a permanent resource that new councillors can draw on to brief themselves up and get briefed on particular aspects of particular topics. Sorry, Graham.
A second go at this. But one of the reasons we failed in Whitstable is that even though before the local elections we got a lot of councillors pledging their support for getting rid of Brett's, when it came to it, we were still only 12 councillors out of a Canterbury City Council of 50-odd councillors. Yes, right. So we were still outnumbered, hugely outnumbered, all right? And so, and we were cross-party as well, okay? So what it comes down to is having the petition is great, having every councillor in Ramsgate on board is fantastic, but it's still not enough. And the other reason we failed in Whitstable is to get rid of Brett's, you've got to have an alternative. And the alternative's got to bring some bloody money in. And what we had was a few traders who wanted to do something on the port as an alternative, but it didn't bring in £100,000 that Brett's would bring in for the port. So I was hoping, when I came here tonight, I was hoping to get a little bit more about the Marina Village and the plans for that, because I don't know anything about that at the moment, to be honest with you. I know nothing about it, but what I do know is that if you've got a plan there, you need to build that up and put that up front to put against Brett's.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a brief update on the Marina Village development and the feasibility study that goes with it. It is a metaphor for TDC, it's a metaphor for the way this corporate management team works. Is that last June they had a proposal for a feasibility study for a Marina Village development. Sorry, Maritime Village development. Within that feasibility study was an offer to look at all options on the port, to analyse them, to identify their commercial, environmental and business advantages and disadvantages, and then transparently present them to the council so that councillors could make a rational decision as to what on earth to do with the port and what is the best option. And these options range from closing the thing down altogether to giving a fair look at industrial, giving a fair look at ferries, but ferries is now no longer an option. That would have been a sensible way to go about it. It could have been commissioned last June 2018. It could have reported last August, September. The leader of the council constantly promised that he would commission some kind of feasibility study, something to look at the options on the port. On February the 28th, the council said that they would commission this feasibility study, or something equivalent, and they would do it as soon as possible. That was a clear wish expressed unanimously by every councillor in the council on February 28th. That has not happened. But within 4 days, they did manage to tender, commission, and put out to tender a consultancy to build a new berth for Brett Aggregates. So, a proposal that has been lying on their desk for over 10 months has not been actioned. A proposal that didn't exist until the beginning of middle of January was actioned immediately after the port was stood down for ferry readiness and seaborne freight was no more. Now, I don't want to get into parties, but the behaviour of the leader of the council is astonishing in this regard. It has been astonishing since he took power, and one of the things he's done is that he has acted consistently and clearly and deliberately against his own party's local policies. He appears not to be leader of Thanet District Council, and he appears not to be leader of the local Conservatives. He appears to be the stooge of the corporate management party, which nobody ever votes for and nobody ever gets to vote for. So that is a very brief history on the feasibility study. Our hope is the new council will commission that feasibility study or its equivalent to look at all possible options on the port as soon as possible to allow council to take a sensible, clear, reasoned, long-term decision as to what is the least worst option to deal with this thing that is losing us so much money. Janet's at the back.
Can you hear me? Yes. One of the big problem, it seems to me, that's happened with the port has been the use of delegated powers by the officers. And I read, God help me, I read the new constitution, which was passed in March 2018, and I could achieve no clear direction from that on when delegated powers were to be used. And it seems to me that that's a really grey area. Why, how is it that council officers can use delegated powers for £1.2 million worth of expenditure, which is what happened with the earlier stuff on the berths? How is that possible? I mean, when? So this seems to me that this is the thing that we need to get to grips with, big time. And that the new constitution that was brought in last year is a great threat to local democracy and sanity.
It's 9 o'clock. I don't want RAG to overstay its welcome with your time and commitment, mainly because we're going to want a lot more of it soon. So, if it's all right with the meeting, I'd like to briefly summarise. If you could do anything with regards to the petition, or you'd like to be part of a self-organised group looking at a particular area, be it environment, business, or what have you, our wonderful committee members at the back will be only too happy to take your details and try and put everything together. Please, please, please take the petition. And Becky is absolutely right. We are just starting to reach out to other bits of Thanet, to Cliftonville, to Margate, and so on and so forth. But we need to do that a lot more, because this isn't a Ramsgate problem, this is a Thanet problem. Everybody in Thanet pays for that port. Everyone in Thanet suffers from the losses it makes. So we need to make a big effort to explain to everyone else in Thanet what we think we know in Ramsgate. So, in the first instance, I would like you, I think we've decided, petition like hell. We want 1,000 signatures almost instantly. We would like 10,000, we would like 20,000. Secondly, think about the candidates you want to represent you very carefully. And RAG would say the most important local issue is how to solve the losses of the port and why the industrialisation of the port, particularly Brett Aggregates, will actually future-proof those losses and compound those losses, which is why it shouldn't happen. There is a sense in which everything that you don't like in Thanet seems connected. And it's connected by a number of things. The default position on delegated powers. We have a crazy, crooked constitution that assumes that officers take the decisions unless councillors vote otherwise. That is a huge democratic deficit that needs to be changed. We have officers constantly undertaking commercial activity that they seem to be hugely incompetent at, don't seem to understand, and time after time after time ends in absolute disaster. Be it Seabourn Freight, be it Trans-Europa debacle, be it Pleasure Armour. They do not appear to be able to put one foot in front of another when it comes to doing business and when it comes to entering into commercial agreements
I just
for the
agree,
council.
they look after their own accounts very well. They take back characters. The idea, when to
to keep doing the same thing over and over again in the same way is madness. When you're banging your head against the wall, stop banging, right? We need a thorough investigation into the management and port accounts for all sorts of reasons. We need to end rule by junta, and we need to restore local democracy to Thanet, and we need councillors, our elected members, who we can hold to account to take important decisions. So the main thing, our main target over the next 2 or 3 weeks is to really raise the profile of what's going on with Brett and why it's so wrong. I hope to be able to organise a protest at the end, on the port, picnic on the port by the end, collect petitions, and let's put our new councillors in a position where we can test their mettle, where we can see what they're saying they're going to do about the port, about dragging back their right to take decisions on our behalf away from the corporate management team, and let's take it from there. So if anyone wants to put their hand up to convene some kind of subgroup in terms of...
I just wanted to say something. If you want to test the council's mettle, you want to have the protest before the elections. See how many councillors turn up.
Oh, it will be.
Once they're elected, they might not turn up. Do it before they're elected, and you'll see for yourself who's got the bottom to do it.
Can I just say quickly?
Yeah.
If those of us who are the committee members, if we all stand up so you know which one of us to approach at the back to give your names if you want to get involved in, so there's John
Davis, Dominic, Stephen and Elaine and Jane at the back, but they're all going to be at the back very soon with the buckets.
Okay,
And Ollie.
So, finally, I'd like to thank you very, very much for coming this evening. I'd like to thank you for your patience for listening. I'd like you to go away, tell a friend, get them to tell a friend. I'd like you to take as many petitions with you as you can manage to get signed. Then I'd like you to print up some more. And I hope to see you.
Steve, can everybody also write to Natural England?
Yeah, we will, yeah. Janet, I hope, is going to form a environmental subcommittee to start such things. And I hope to see you all after Easter when we do our picnic on the port. Date to be confirmed, but before the end of April. Bring your ginger beer. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks. Have a very good evening. And together we can definitely stop this.